You say you're tired of hurting, tired of crying over people who never chose you, tired of the roller coaster of almost love, of false promises, of waiting for someone to become what they never were. But you stay, you hope, you hurt, again and again. Why? Because somewhere deep down, the pain feels familiar. Carl Jung would tell you to stop looking at the surface. He would tell you that the pain you keep revisiting, the relationships that leave you shattered, the love that never lands, the people who come close but never stay, is not random. It's patterned, it's psychological, it's unconscious. And until you bring that unconscious to light, you'll keep calling it fate. You'll keep saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" Not realizing you're not just reacting to the person in front of you, you're reacting to a wound that's much older than them, a pain that's been with you for years, maybe decades. And that pain, it's not just pain anymore. It's become a part of you. It's become home. Because when pain is all you've known, peace feels unfamiliar. And the unfamiliar doesn't feel safe. That's why you confuse chaos with chemistry. Why you feel more alive around people who confuse you. Why you chase the ones who don't want you and push away the ones who do. It's not because you're broken. It's because your nervous system is loyal to what it learned early in life. If your earliest experiences of love were inconsistent, conditional, or absent, then your body learned to see pain as love. If affection came with strings or was withheld when you didn't perform, you learned to tie love with tension. You learned to crave the high of being chosen because the baseline was always rejection. And now, in adulthood, you find yourself addicted to that emotional rhythm. You chase highs, you survive lows. You mistake unpredictability for passion because at least it feels familiar. At least it feels like something you know how to endure. You say you want peace, but when someone offers it, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel real. You say things like, "I don't feel the spark," or "it's too easy," not realizing that ease is what love is supposed to feel like. You weren't made to suffer for love. You just learned love through suffering, and the suffering became a script. Jung would call this a complex, a cluster of emotions, beliefs, and memories that live in your unconscious and shape your behaviors. You're not aware of it, but it runs the show. It determines who you're drawn to, how you interpret their behavior, and how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice to be chosen. You meet someone who is inconsistent, they pull away, you panic. Your childhood wounds awaken, your mind says, "Make them stay." But it's not just about them, it's about winning a game you were never meant to play. A game that started when you were a child craving attention that never came. So when they come back, you feel relief, not just emotionally, but physically. Your nervous system calms, your brain floods with dopamine. You call it love. But what it really is relief from withdrawal, because that's what trauma bonds do. They keep you hooked, not on connection, but on intensity. Dr. Patrick Carnes, who coined the term trauma bonding, explained that people often become addicted to abusive or inconsistent relationships because the cycle of pain and reward mimics addiction. The unpredictability creates dependency. Your brain gets used to the spike of pleasure after pain. You stop craving connection, you crave relief. It's not love, it's survival. Jung would say you're projecting your unhealed wounds onto the person in front of you. You're not just loving them, you're trying to finish a story. You're trying to finally be good enough for the parent who never saw you. To finally be chosen by someone who resembles the one who didn't. But the story can't end that way because they're not the parent. And you're not that child anymore. Unless you realize this, you'll stay addicted to the pattern. Addicted to the chase, to the drama, to the ache that reminds you you're alive, even if it's killing your spirit. Because here's the secret. Your pain has become your identity. You don't know who you are without it. You're the one who loves too much, the one who feels too deeply, the one who gives and waits for scraps. You don't know what it means to be loved gently, to be seen clearly, to be chosen easily. And when it shows up, you flinch, you sabotage, you walk away, not because you don't want it, but because it terrifies you, because peace feels like a risk when all you've ever known is pain. But Jung would remind you there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You have to feel it. You have to walk straight into the wound, not to suffer, but to understand, not to drown in it, but to learn from it. You have to ask yourself, why do I feel more alive in pain than in peace? Why do I chase what hurts me and ignore what heals me? Why do I keep calling emotional withdrawal love? Because until you answer those questions, you'll keep reenacting the same emotional story, hoping for a different ending. But repetition doesn't heal you. Awareness does. Healing begins the moment you stop blaming them and start listening to the ache. The ache isn't punishment, it's information. It's your inner child saying, this feels familiar, but familiar doesn't mean safe. That's the first step. The next step, choosing differently. It won't feel natural. It won't feel romantic. It won't feel like the stories you grew up with. It will feel calm. Love that doesn't spike your anxiety, that doesn't make you prove your worth, that doesn't make you guess if you matter. At first, you'll want to run. Your nervous system will panic. It'll say, this doesn't feel like love. But that's not your intuition. That's your trauma talking. Your real self, the one buried beneath the ache, knows better. It knows that love is not supposed to be earned through suffering, that love shouldn't feel like waiting, proving, chasing, surviving. It knows that peace is not the absence of passion. It's the presence of safety. That consistency isn't dull. It's a nervous system finally allowed to rest. But here's the biological reality. If you were raised in emotional unpredictability, your brain and body were trained to live in high alert, to be vigilant, to scan constantly for danger, for disconnection, for abandonment. And when that becomes your baseline, chaos feels comforting. Calm feels suspicious. Dr. Stephen Porges, creator of polyvagal theory, explains how the vagus nerve, the main nerve involved in our parasympathetic nervous system, regulates how safe we feel in connection. When we're calm and regulated, we access our social engagement system. We can bond, love, communicate. But when we feel unsafe, even subtly, our system shuts down into fight, flight, or freeze. So imagine a child growing up with love that was conditional. Sometimes there, sometimes not. Sometimes nurturing, sometimes critical. That child doesn't just develop trust issues. They develop a dysregulated nervous system. Their baseline state becomes survival. And in adulthood, survival feels like love. That's why when someone is steady, consistent, emotionally available, your body doesn't know what to do with that. You don't trust it. It doesn't give you the adrenaline you've mistaken for connection. You think, it's too easy. Something must be wrong. But the only thing wrong is that peace feels unfamiliar. And this is where addiction to pain begins. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because our bodies interpret emotional chaos as home. Dr. Gabor Mate puts it this way: we are not addicted to the substance, we are addicted to the escape, to the feeling it gives us, to the familiarity. The same applies to emotional patterns. We're not addicted to the person, we're addicted to the feeling they awaken in us, the emotional cocktail of hope, rejection, longing, and adrenaline. And that cycle, it's not just emotional, it's chemical. When you're in a toxic push-pull dynamic, your brain releases dopamine in bursts. This intermittent reward system, the same used in casinos and slot machines, keeps you hooked. You don't feel safe, but you feel alive. That high when they give you attention, it's real, it's potent, but it's also manipulative because it's not love, it's neurochemical conditioning. When they withdraw, your brain crashes. You feel anxious, desperate, foggy. Your cortisol rises, your amygdala activates, your body enters threat mode. And when they return, relief floods your system. You mistake that relief for love, but relief is not love. Relief is just the end of panic. And you keep going back, not because of what they give you, but because of what their absence threatens to take away. Your sense of being enough. That's not love, that's trauma reenactment. So no, your anxiety around them isn't a sign of deep connection. It's a sign of a dysregulated attachment system still shaped by the ghosts of your early caregivers. John Bowlby, father of attachment theory, observed that children who experienced inconsistent caregiving developed anxious attachment patterns. As adults, they often struggle with trust, chase emotionally unavailable partners, and interpret rejection as proof of their unworthiness. Sound familiar? You're not broken, you're patterned. And these patterns aren't conscious. They live in your body, your nervous system, your implicit memory, the kind that doesn't use words but uses sensations. So when someone healthy enters your life, your body says, "This doesn't match my template for love." And that's where the real healing begins. The work is to befriend your nervous system. To teach it, slowly and gently, that safety is not boring, that kindness is not manipulation, that consistency is not control, that love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. So how do you do this? You begin by listening. Not to the noise of panic, but to the whispers of truth underneath it. You begin by breaking the cycle, by saying no to the pain that feels like home, by setting boundaries with people who mirror your past, not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself more. You stop romanticizing people who breadcrumb you. You stop interpreting confusion as depth. You stop calling someone's inconsistency a test of love. You unlearn what love used to mean, and you redefine it on your own terms. And here's what love becomes. It becomes the steady hand on your back, not the cold shoulder. It becomes the consistent message, not the mixed signal. It becomes the relationship where you exhale, not the one where you hold your breath. Because healing doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like being able to breathe. It looks like not waiting for the next explosion. It looks like not having to ask, "Do I matter?" It's not the rush. It's the rest. It's the silence that feels safe, not suffocating. It's the slowness that feels sacred. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." But healing, real healing, requires you to face your soul, to face the patterns you didn't choose, but that now define your love life, to face the ache you've labeled romantic and call it what it truly is, familiar suffering. This is your invitation. To stop calling pain your destiny, to stop waiting for someone else to choose you, to stop begging for crumbs and calling it a feast, and instead to sit with the unfamiliar. Sit with the person who texts back, who makes you feel calm, who doesn't confuse your nervous system into panic, who doesn't make you prove your worth every day. At first, you'll want to run. You'll say, "This doesn't feel like love," but that's just the trauma speaking. Your real self, the one that's been buried under all the pain, knows better. It knows that love isn't loud, that love isn't pain, that love isn't chaos. It knows that love is steady, that love is safe, that love feels like home without costing you your peace. So you sit, you breathe, you stay. You teach your body that safety is allowed, that you no longer need to earn love through suffering, because you're not addicted to the person. You're addicted to the feeling, to the cycle, to the high and crash of unsteady affection. And the moment you see that, the moment you name it, is the moment you reclaim your power, not all at once, but gently, bravely, daily. You start writing a new story, one where love isn't pain, one where your nervous system gets to rest, one where your worth is never up for negotiation. And in that story, you stop needing someone to save you, because finally, after all this time, you choose to save yourself.